Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the ASX and Sectors weekly chart analysis for the week ending 29th of August 2025. First chart is the S&P ASX 200 index. It closed just slightly higher this week. It's been results season in Australia this week and volumes were slightly higher. You often get mixed trading during this time where the market for some stocks is moving higher and others moving lower depending on their results. So you see this trading with the reduced spread, close in the middle. Unless it's all rosy or all bad, you'll get these bars that aren't really telling you a great deal of information. What normally comes is the response. Next week, you'll see the market really settle and show some intent again. So this week, the market's pretty much moved sideways. For most of the week, it's traded inside the range of the previous bar on an increase in volume. Normally, if you saw an increase in volume like that on a narrow spread up bar that closed in the middle, if there was severe weakness in the background or some sort of supply event, that would tell you the market's going lower. But we've only got strength in the background from back here where buying support came in and good strong buying support. We've seen the market just moving higher in response ever since. There's no weakness in the background that's obvious at the moment. So I would take the narrow spread up bar on high volume just with a grain of salt and put that down to results season and just waiting for a catalyst to move the market higher. If there was weakness emerge, there are numerous layers of potential support below before there was any serious breakdown level. That would probably come down here. You've got all these levels here where support could be found. So it would take quite a bit to knock this market over right now. It's more likely to push higher in response at some point, but this week at least, the market's just traded sideways, as you'll see for many of the other charts. This is the mid-cap sector, and very similar to the parent index. Prices just moved sideways this week on high volume. It's results season. There's no great weakness in the background on this chart either. So despite the narrow spread up bar closing in the middle on high volume, it doesn't really infer weakness, or at least it doesn't at this point. And if price did pull back, this is your first stop here where there may be some buying support emerge. Very similar to the parent index. It doesn't look like weakness has come in. It just looks like the market is trading sideways in here. And given any sort of favourable results, I expect the market would like to attempt to push higher. This is a small ordinary sector, and it did push higher this week. Here was the buying support like those other charts. We put the lines in. You can see the market broke out here, spent 2 weeks in consolidation mode, and it's pushed higher again this week, closing pretty much right at its highs for the week on the increased volume. So that suggests the small ordinaries is off and running now, and that bar standing tall and proud is exactly what you want to see on a strong push high like that. You may get a little consolidation in response early next week, and then a continuation higher if trading conditions remain favourable. This is the financial sector, the largest sector on the Australian Stock Exchange. And just put some lines in quickly. We saw the market attempt to break out last week, and this week the market's moved into consolidation mode. Here was the push higher, and here's the period of consolidation in response. Up in the top half of the range, that's looking quite good at the moment. Mid-bar close shows some buying support has emerged off the week's low. Volume was reduced but remained above the average. this market looks like it's absorbing any supply that's being drawn out and would like to push higher in response if trading conditions allow. This is the ASX metals and mining sector, the miners effectively. And here was the initial level that we originally watched. And the secondary level came through here. Highs of the range are up here. That's what the market was dealing with last week. We saw an initial attempt to break out above this level. That encountered supply from this level. Price came back in response, gathered itself up again, pushed higher up to the highs of this range, consolidated last week, and this week it's made an attempt to push higher. That all looks really good. A breakout above this level would put price into fresh, clean, new air, and it'll leave all of this congestion behind, all of this congestion in here that can cause trouble when you're trading adjacent to it with stale supply being absorbed from the left. At this point, it's not a breakout, it's an attempt to break out, but it looks good. It's slightly above average, but not excessively so in the volume. And the market's pushed clear above the highs of the range, closing right up near its highs for the week. So that looks like a pretty strong attempt to push higher. And if you get upside follow through, or you get a consolidation right up high in the range, you would expect this market will attempt to push higher at some point in response. The ASX gold sector looked a bit tenuous down here when the market looked like it might come down and test the lows down here for strength. But the market reversed, took out all of this weakness in one go, and after 2 weeks of consolidation, the market's pushed higher again and is right up near the highs of the range now. So this market's looking pretty good. I expect there'll be a little test for supply early next week, although gold prices were up on Friday night, so they may just continue higher, but you would normally see a little test for supply, similar to what you did there. You see price pushed up. There was a little test for supply below the previous bar's close before there was a push higher. And that's often what happens when you get an up bar that's strong like that. Just a little test for supply to absorb any supply that's been drawn out in response to the push higher. And then if trading conditions remain favourable and the supply is relatively low, the market will push higher again in response. And that's what I expect this market will do, at least early next week. This is the ASX energy sector. We saw pretty good buying support emerge back down here and noted it at the time. Price then, after a little bit of consolidation, pushed up to the next level, trading adjacent to these levels to the left. Price broke out a second time up here, and the markets then moved into consolidation mode within this bar's range. What it's contending with is this supply from the left. This is an important level. This is effectively the breakout level for all of this previous trading. If the market is able to break clearly above this level, it'll leave all of this old trading behind and all of the issues that go along with trading to the left like this. This would be a clear breakout and move into fresh new air above. It's so much easier for a market to trade when the older trading is a long time ago, or if there's no trading to the left at all. So if successful, this market will push higher and above this bar's high. You'll see an attempt to break out, probably a consolidation, and then if everything works out okay, you'll see the market then pushing higher. That would be a really strong move. Remains to be seen, but it would be a really strong move. This is the healthcare sector. We saw some weakness emerge in the previous week, mostly surrounding a single stock. We noted some buying support initially back down here. It was only modest at the time. Price then pushed up in response and moved into a true accumulation zone through here. Price then moved up again and then trading adjacent to the highs of the range, and it looked like the market was going to attempt to push higher, but weakness emerged on this bar and price pushed down with a really wide spread. Volume wasn't particularly high, but note the volume this week, really quite high. Spreads narrowed considerably and the thrust lower has reduced considerably. I expect that buying supports emerged in this market. You'll probably see it better on the daily chart. I don't know. Here's the daily chart. Here was the initial push lower. You can see that some buying support emerged on that bar with the close well off that day's low and the next bar being up. So you saw buying support emerge. There was a secondary push lower, but within the range of this bar, and an up bar in response, albeit one that drew out some supply. Spread narrowed considerably as price pushed lower on this bar, and there was another up bar in response. So that suggests that all of this has seen some buying support in it, all of that trading in there, in that box. And I expect what's happening here is a little shakeout with Friday's bar closing off its low with a narrowing spread on high volume. You'll probably see the market respond back into that trading range early next week, perhaps Monday, but early next week. If that's the case, this is an accumulation zone, and you'll probably see price trading sideways for a period in here as it consolidates. I don't expect there'll be a V-shaped bottom and price will just move straight up like this. That's less likely. It's always possible, but less likely. More likely is the market will move sideways in response. It'll consolidate for a period and then move higher once all the supply has been absorbed. But that looks like strong buying support has emerged in that box there, and I expect this will be a shakeout of sorts in an attempt to really threaten anyone in the market who wants to sell or is thinking about it, get rid of them, absorb their supply, and then consolidate before there's an attempt to push higher. Go back to the weekly chart now. There's the weekly chart. Look how high that volume was this week. That really is serious volume in this market. The majority of volumes, if you go back here, are all sort of at that level there. Small increase in volume last week. Didn't match the spread of this bar. You can see the thrust lower is considerably shorter than the previous bar's thrust lower. So I expect that buying support has emerged in this market. It's not confirmed at the moment, but I suspect that's what's happening. We'll just watch it over the next few weeks to see if we get confirmation of that. The ASX industrial sector, we noted that supply was drawn out after a good push higher for some time. Supply was drawn out, price pulled back in response and consolidated. We draw that as the highs of the range. You can see the market attempted to break out last week, and this week we've seen a period of consolidation in response. Volume was increased, probably due to results season more than supply being drawn out, but that needs to be watched. The fact that price traded right up in the top half of the previous bar and closed well off the week's low suggests that any supply that was being drawn out was comfortably absorbed by the market, or at least it was this week anyway. This market looks like it would like to go higher again. It may require a catalyst for that, or perhaps just for the result season to finish and normal trading to resume, and then the market may attempt to push higher. If there was further weakness emerge in this market, I expect the market will come back to this level down here and attempt to consolidate on top of the highs of the range. So just follow this one along. Looks good at the moment. Looks like it would like to go higher. This is the consumer staples sector. We were looking at the highs of the range up here, and The two biggest stocks that totally dominate this sector both announced this week, announced results, and one announced really good results or results that the market approved of, and the market proved higher in response. The other, not so good, and the market moved lower in response. We did see it close well off the week's low, so some buying support has emerged for sure. And the market's almost closed in the middle for the week. Not quite, but nearly. The volume was increased, mostly due to the results that came out and the increased volatility that emerges around results season. I don't expect it to be concerning, and I expect the market will probably move sideways in response around about this level in here in the meantime and attempt to consolidate. The lows of the range are coming through here, highs of the range right up here. So I expect the market will probably consolidate around this level, at least for next week. This is consumer discretionary, and this market traded in consolidation mode this week. Buying support emerged down here. There was a period where the market spent some time absorbing supply, probably coming from the left. Here's the breakout, 1 week's consolidation, secondary breakout, and this week saw a consolidation in response. I expect this market would like to continue higher, but if results are still emerging from this sector, you may get a secondary bar of consolidation like this prior to any attempt to move higher, just to be sure that there's no surprises in the results season to come. If there was, a pullback to this level would be most likely. You'd see the market attempt to consolidate on top of that level. But I think this market would like to move higher. May just take another week in case there's any more results expected from the stocks involved in this sector. This is the ASX property sector, and similar to the other sectors, buying support down here, a couple of weeks of consolidation, and then a push higher in response. The highs of the range come through here. You can see this market spent some time in consolidation mode before it was able to push above that level, and since then the market has moved higher. This bar looked ominous last week. It's almost certainly an absorption bar now. I say that mostly because if that was weakness, and it was debatable whether it was or it wasn't last week, the market would have pulled back at least to some extent and tested for supply below that bar's close this week, and it didn't do so at all. What it did do was push higher in response and fade lower again. So you've had a bar that's pushed higher, faded lower, pushed higher a second time, faded lower. I expect this is absorption, and I'll treat it as such until something occurs that changes my opinion otherwise. But at this point, it looks like it's absorption, and that would suggest this market would like to move higher in response when trading conditions allow. Just back to the parent index quickly before we finish. Here was your buying support on high volume. Here was the push higher in response. And this week, the market's just waiting for a catalyst to emerge. I expect its high volume was due to the results season, and the market's pretty much traded inside the range of the previous bar for the week. The market looks like it would like to move higher. It'll need a catalyst to do so, I expect. In the meantime, I expect prices just going to grind higher. If any weakness did emerge, you'll probably find a test for supply early. And if the weakness continued, then you've got this level below where the market would attempt to consolidate in response, where it has done previously. Okay, thanks for your time. Back again next week. See ya.